Still a lineup full of LCS talent.
And you can see the communications there within the team. You can see they all know what they're meant to do, when they're meant to do it. The Stand Uniteds were incredibly quick, very good reaction plays, and you can see everyone trusts everyone else. And with that sort of composition, you have to trust the rest of your team. So we are into Champ Select for the second game. Schalke have switched over to the blue side, Kinguin, of course, on the red, and Zyra and LeBlanc are the bans.
So far, nothing too standoffish. If you're Schalke, you can look to ban away the Malzahar. I feel like that there's nothing you really need to ban away from Kinguin. There were no real threats. For Team Kinguin, they're going to be kind of forced into a situation where they have to ban the OPs. Given the dominance displayed by Schalke in Game 1, I think you cannot afford to give these strong champions away, but it does mean that Schalke is very likely going to get the early priority on the Kazakhs. And given that LeBlanc and Camille have both been banned, I feel that there's no really other choice for Kinguin.
At the moment, Kinguin haven't banned out that Rengar. We expect it to be their final ban, of course. Apart from that, is there anything that you would play into Kazakhs comfortably, or do you think Kazakhs just stands head and shoulders above everything else?
For me, I feel that if you're Tabasco, you could look to just play something like an Elise. It was something that he was very well known for during the actual Challenger Series qualifiers. He does seem to be like an aggressive jungler, and I feel that it would facilitate the playstyle that Kinguin is used to. Alternatively, you could go for something that he played during the finals, during the playoffs, where they had unbelievable success.
Incredibly good. Actually, it was a composition that we saw originally from TLR, Team Larsen Reborn, on the first day of Challenger Series qualification, and people started to pick it up later on. So it's a Nocturne Shen comp, and all you do is you do this like paranoia submarine, it's like a horror movie on a submarine, and you just have Nocturne jumping into the backline with the Stand United on him, keep him safe and give it a lot of damage onto that backline. It's absolutely superb. They haven't picked it here, but Tabasco is known for his Nocturne.
He certainly is, and if anything, it's just kind of a bait pick, you know? It's like telling Schalke, hey, we're potentially going to bring this out later, maybe you should waste a ban on it. There's always the mind games involved with the two-phase ban system, but so far, it looks like the Schalke prioritizing getting that early tank in the top lane does mean that Kinguin have a little bit more freedom in what they want to ban in the top lane. They don't have to invest into the Gangplank or the Rumble ban, anything that aggressive. If I was Kinguin now, I would consider either going for my support, or you can just pick up your mid laner. Ryze is still available, Syndra is still pretty strong right now. You have a bit of freedom, and I think that the safest pick would just be something, or you could just go for jungle. I'm a little bit sad now because we talked so much about the Nocturne, something that Tabasco was really good in, or good at during the actual finals to qualify for the Challenger Series, but at least he's going more towards that aggressive jungle style.
You talked about it in the last game. You were saying that, it's not aggressive enough from Tabasco with this Ivern, and he needs something that can be a little bit more aggressive, and Lee Sin does fit into that meta very well. Haven't seen him that much in LCS this week, actually. After 7.2, I think he was only played in one game and wasn't banned out in any either.
Well, even after 7.1, he did have a big nerf to his ultimate damage, which is part of why he was dissuaded and why a lot of people wanted to move away from him. But now we move on to the second half of the ban phase. You can see that Schalke already trying to pinch some of the supports that are left available, forcing Kinguin to go really deep into their champion pool. But if you're Kinguin, you could actually look to pinch AD carries right now. Very surprising that their target focus has actually been on the mid lane. But given that they do have first pick, I wouldn't be surprised to see Sebex go for something like a Syndra here, which would force Schalke into something like a Corki.
I think Corki is pretty safe, though, in the current meta. Very strong, works really well for that sort of siege composition. And actually, a slightly odd ban here from Schalke is the Soraka ban coming out. Did see Jez's play it twice yesterday, but a not very common pick in the support role.
No, and I'm a little bit surprised. I mean, usually what's really good into poke is sustain. So perhaps they're just a little bit aware of that, and they don't want to allow Kinguin to go for it. Things like the Bard and the Lulu are still available, so Delord could go for that. He could even go for a Thresh, so the all-in potential is pretty strong in the bottom lane. But for Kinguin, it looks like they are going to prioritize that safe mid laner, which could potentially dissuade Selfie from going for that Syndra pick.
It's going to be Katarina.
Oh, yes, it is.
It's going to be Katarina. I know you love Katarina a lot, so we'll come back to that matchup a little bit later on as we round out this pick and ban phase. Schalke now looking for that AD carry. Caitlyn is still on the cards, but it's going to be the Sivir. So quite a strong engage from them with the Maokai Sivir, on the hunt.
Sure. The team fighting power of Schalke is phenomenal. Definitely playing towards that mid game, going for more of a scaling, laning phase. I mean, they had a scaling comp last game and they snowballed it in 20 minutes. If you get a Katarina or kill in the early game, you're really going to struggle if you're Kinguin. And we can talk more about this Katarina matchup later on, but to round things out, Kinguin picking up that Lulu, we saw it from Schalke in game 1. It was really good at facilitating the all-in, and she does provide very good peel. Also does relatively well into the Karma. But
and the Katarina as well. Death Lotus Whimsy
as well.
is pretty,
Whimsy is incredibly potent. That's a very good point. Oh, okay. I was like, wait, are they really going to do it? Are they going to put the virus mid into a cat? No, just got a little bit baited there. But yeah, Kinguin, much more of an early game comp with the Lee Sin that they have. Corki can be very aggressive into the Katarina. There's a lot of room for Snowball, and this time they actually have a little bit more mid game. So even if the early game doesn't go the way you want it, it can still work out nicely. They have a good scaling comp. They have a lot of very potent siege. They have the global ultimate with the Shen that they can look to try and make a cross-map play. I feel that Kinguin's draft is much more well-rounded this time, and they have way more options, which I think is the important thing for Kinguin.
Definitely. It feels a lot more like they came in with a coordinated game plan here and then didn't just say, oh, you know, LeBlanc's open, let's pick LeBlanc because she's strong. It feels like they've rounded their composition out. And you have to give credit to Hachi, who's their head coach as well, trying to help them understand how to get through picks and bans and how to get through the draft phase. I feel we've talked a lot about Schalke's coordination and their synergy together, but you have to remember, you know, you've got 5 Polish members on the side of Team Kinguin. They're going to have great communication, you'd assume, because they're all speaking the same language. And they've been around together for quite a long time as well. So they have that confidence into each other and the trust that you need to have. The
big thing is experience, I feel. When you actually look at the Schalke lineup, as we've mentioned, they have former LCS players, former Worlds participants, whereas for Team Kinguin, they're not as well-known. Like Woolite, arguably the most well-known player on that roster. Sevex has also been around the challenger scene for a fair amount of time, but you wouldn't be surprised if they were pretty nervous, you know? Sebex...
They're not the only ones.
Yeah, but the fact that they're nervous could very well hinder their performance in Game 1. And to have to go up against Schalke, who have been preparing for this ever since the promotion tournament where they ended up getting knocked out, you can see that it's definitely an uphill battle. And the question for them is, can they now rectify what they did in Game 1, have a stronger performance in Game 2, and use these as learning opportunities to move forward in the rest of the Challenger Series?
Definitely. If you think Schalke are going to win, make sure you tweet at us with the hashtag S04 win. And if you think Team Kinguin could take this one and equalize the series at 1-1, tweet at us with hashtag KGNWin. But you talk about them trying to rectify their mistakes. Kinguin have already done that in the draft phase. A lot more strategy behind this draft, a lot more understanding as to how they want to play the map. But again, if they don't get that snowball rolling, if they don't get ahead in the early game, you do worry slightly for them.
Well, it is going to be, once again, the early game. Now, when we talk about the early game medic, the lane that we need to look at is the mid lane. Because Selfie in Game 1 did have a pretty fun time getting the early pressure from the Kazakhs, but Katarina is way more aggressive. Now, I was fortunate enough to be on the desk with Senkux, where we talked a lot about the Katarina into Corki matchup. Personally, I like Kat into Corki. I think that it's very difficult for the Corki to punish your aggressive playstyle as a Katarina, but he makes very valid points in the sense that Corki can always play from range. It's very easy to disengage from her gap closes with the Valkyrie. You always run exhaust, which is one of Katarina's biggest problems. And also, like, you can just play as safe as you want, which is the most obnoxious thing for a Katarina player, because you want to try and be as aggressive as possible. So I'm excited to see how this matchup plays out. I think that early on, Selfie will get pushed underneath his turret. But when you look at the pushing power, Schalke definitely make up for it down in the bottom lane.
Yeah, Civic Armor is like the quintessential we want to push the lane. But I want to talk about junglers as well, because earlier in the last game we saw Lulex having that impactful first gank, getting that first blood in the mid lane. And as you say, mid lane is the focus. Have to expect Tabasco and Lulex to try and put some pressure there early on as well.
I think that it would be good for Lulex to try and put pressure, but it's very difficult against the Corki given how safe he is. And I feel that that window of opportunity will not be as evident in Game 2 as it was in Game 1, because LeBlanc was the aggressor, Lulex punished it. This time it's Selfie who's looking to be the aggressor, and it's Tabasco that we want to see try and punish it.
Strong trades by both of the bot lanes here. Woolite getting some damage onto Upset. Both of them have started with this longsword triple pots. It's something we're seeing a lot more now that lethality is a little bit stronger.
Typically, you want to try and rush the very early Dirk as a result of it. It means you can get it on 750 gold, so you can go back to base a little bit sooner, have that big lane spike, which is very potent. But I am curious to see how this Sivir decides to build. Now, we have been seeing it from Hyanon a couple of times in the actual LCS. And in terms of engage potential, yes, it's very strong, but when champions like the Jhin and the Ashe were both available, I found it very fascinating that Upset actually decided to prioritize this more team fighting, team scaling AD carry, and I'm curious as to how he actually decides to build. Will he go towards scaling as Lulex gets caught out?
Tabasco spotted out. Lulex will smite the Scuttle Crab to try and get some health trading in. Tabasco's going low, and here comes Sebex. Lulex has to flash away. Exhaust onto Lulex. There's the kill. Tabasco now ignited as Selfie tries to clean up this fight. Sebex has no summoners and has no escape from Selfie, but he's trying to trade back in. Oh. Selfie gets the kill. Resets onto Tabasco. It's a double and a double buff for Selfie.
That was the worst possible thing you could have done if you're Tabasco. If you're going to try and save your mid laner, you have to go in sooner. As Upset, he now could be in some trouble.
Yeah, chased by Woolite and D-Lord because they saw Vander leave the lane, but Upset's very happy just to trade back in. Exhaust down onto Woolite. Manchester Inspire will come out as well, and Woolite now decides that he cannot continue to trade. The karma has come back.
This is the great thing about Challenger. You don't get slow early games here, Medic. You only get hyper-aggressive, lots of kills, all kinds of bloodshed. And Schalke, again, this was the lane. Oh, Woolite.
Outpicks, trading onto Upset. Here's the heal. Upset has the flash. Just about survives. Vander gets underneath the turret alive as well. I feel Schalke thought perhaps that Lulex would have been there a mite earlier because he was on the bottom side of his jungle.
So things have gone completely topsy-turvy. Katarina is the one that has gotten the early kills when really he should have been the one being pushed underneath his turret by the Corki. And the bottom lane of Schalke is the one that's getting pushed back. They're playing too aggressively. They're getting punished by the extended trades from Team Kinguin. And they've actually now been able to get a pretty significant CS advantage down in the bottom lane. Really good start for the mid laner of Schalke. And it all stems back from what we saw here. Tabasco trying to punish Lulex for going for this Scuttle Crab. And this was the early aggression we wanted to see from Tabasco. This is why we wanted to see the Lee Sin. Sebex actually had the early advantage because he had the ability to close the gap. They get the first kill. Now, together, this is when Kinguin should turn around and just kill Selfie. He has everything on cooldown. And now Tabasco walks away, and then he comes back when Selfie gets the reset. It was a really bad decision from Tabasco. They should have just gone for the 2 versus 1. Selfie, they could have very well forced his flash, and instead they give him a double buff and a very early level 5.
Too scared of the Razorbeaks to stick around there for a moment, trying to back away. But look at the trade potential here. Tabasco's going to join the fight. Selfie dodging around, just about surviving for the moment. Lulex has joined the fray in the mid lane now as Selfie turns back in. Jump onto Tabasco here by Lulex. Hasn't really got that much mana, so we'll just walk away. I think Tabasco should be able to get away from him. He's got the blast code.
Yeah, he's fine.
Yeah, easy peasy, man.
But Lulex just following him all the way into his jungle, being like, this is my jungle now. You can't do anything about it.
And it is important to get those early wards into the enemy jungle to spot out, especially early aggressive junglers. You want to be able to know where they are on the map and be able to keep tracks on them, which is what's happening with Tabasco at the moment. Did get that first blood, but needs to try and convert that in his other lanes at the moment. Look at the amount of longswords on the.
This is a game of swords, Medic.
The game of swords. Either you pick up a longsword or you die. And at the moment, more longswords tend to be winning. Upset's getting caught out here by Woolite.
No flash.
Exhaust. Upset's dead. Vander the new target as D-Lord and Woolite go incredibly aggressive. Double longsword into single longsword. We know who wins that one.
The Lord was able to save his summoner spells from earlier on, so they end up punishing the 0 summoner spell bottom lane. We talked very early on about how Schalke's bottom lane always wants to push, and this time they end up getting punished for it. But have a look at Selfie on your minimap. He's now hit level 6. He now has push priority in the mid lane. He is primed and ready to look for a roam somewhere else on the map so that he can start snowballing this advantage that he has improved.
Got the incredibly early Hextech Revolver as well. I think that was at about 4 minutes or so he had that completed. It gives him so much priority in that mid lane. Sebex, of course, will get to 6 and have those missiles that he can just chuck out and clear the wave. And it's something you talked about a bit in Picks and Bans, the ability of a Corki just to play incredibly safe. So I don't think Selfie will be expecting to win 1v1s in mid lane. He'll be trying to get around the map and looking for ganks elsewhere.
Well, it's not necessarily about winning 1v1, it's simply pressure. Pressure is the thing that really matters in the laning phase, and as long as Selfie is continuously playing aggressively, because there's always the risk of a Kha'Zix leaping out from behind a bush, this will force Sebex back and will give Selfie the freedom to look around the rest of the map, try and go for roams, try and snowball some other side lanes. And what Sebex needs to try and do is just prioritize on wave clear, just clearing out that the farm as quickly as possible so that he can immediately follow Selfie should he look to roam, and he has that exhaust ready to shut her down.
Look at how scared Tabasco is in his own jungle as well. He backed off the Krugs because he knew Lulex was around, because he knew Smithy J was there. He does a very safe take of the Raptors as well, of those Razorbeaks. He's just very nervous about the fact that there could be a Kha'Zix lurking in the dark.
And a Katarina to instantly follow him up. Cat now has a flash available. As you mentioned, the Hextech Revolver completed too. And Tabasco, while he definitely had a good early start getting that first blood, it was unfortunately compensated by the fact that he ended up giving a double kill over to Selfie. So far things have slowed down a little bit. At this point, bear in mind, Kinguin did have about a 3,000 gold lead, so Kinguin already coming into a better start.
Schalke were miles ahead by
Schalke
this point in the last game.
yes.
I think Kinguin actually being ahead in the gold when we've really been focusing a lot on the pressure that Schalke have had in that mid lane is a testament to how well their bottom lanes played.
It
13 CS ahead already and continuing to push in onto Upset and Vander.
And now they're actually looking for a potential roam. Still no flash on Upset. The play is being read by Schalke. Remember, they have the Channel.
Lulex is here, jumps onto Tabasco, has to kick him away. They've gone for the dive. Sheno onto Sebex. It was Tabasco who needed saving. And Kinguin all in arrears getting caught out because Selfie is on his way. If they can slow up Kinguin, Schalke have a great chance. Smitty J TP's in. Sebex the target. Selfie still, he's waiting. He wants it. He wants to Shumpo in. Just too late, Selfie, not able to get there in time, and Schalke have to settle for one kill.
Schalke can be happy, though, because they stymie the dive from Team Kinguin. Selfie, he may not be done yet, though. Walleye is still staying underneath the turret.
They know he's there. This would be very brave from Kinguin to stay around. They will back away. Schalke, however, do exactly what they wanted to do, and they'll get the turret, they'll get the kill, and they'll get that gold lead.
The logic from the play behind Team Kinguin's roam bot was sound. It was just the execution that was a little bit lacking. It was so telegraphed from the side of Kinguin what they wanted to do. They had the package from Corki. He didn't even clear out the mid lane wave. There was vision spotting the movement down. Lulex was ready, Smitty J was ready to TP, and honestly, Schalke were just prepared for the dive, and it just comes back to the experience thing we were talking about earlier on. Remember that this is a team full of ex-LCS players, and Schalke knew exactly how to punish Kinguin for trying to force that play.
Upset, of course, the only player on that team that hasn't played in the LCS before, and he's perhaps the only player on their team who's behind at the moment. Let's have another look at this dive and explain to me where it all went wrong.
Well, I mean, the big problem here is Tabasco's already used his W. He gets caught completely unawares, and Lulex using his early damage to his advantage. But once they realize that the dive has gone horribly wrong, and Woolite actually ends up being the primary tank, they just have to immediately disengage because they know that Selfie is on his way, and this is the best situation that Team Kinguin can get, not losing any more members to that honestly pretty fed Katarina.
Look at the mana bars as well as the health bars there. They had nothing to defend if that Katarina had been able to jump in. That's exactly what he's doing onto Sebex. Death Lotus with the Ignite as Shumpo in. Selfie on a killing spree, 3-0 on this Katarina.
No exhaust on the Corki. Had already used it down bottom lane. Selfie has that all-in potential. Personally, this is why I think Katarina's pretty strong. It is a little bit biased because he did get a double buff at level 1. But nevertheless, this is the strength. It's very difficult to interrupt the cat. You can't, even though he has he has the Valkyrie to create a gap, it's really easy for Katarina to then just close it once more. So once again now, mid priority heavily in favor of Selfie. He's already completed that Hextech Gunblade, which is a very potent item. Did get a bit of a nerf this patch in terms of the early damage output that it has, but still a very strong build for Katarina. 6 stack on the Dark Seal as well. And now with the bottom tower already being taken, it looks like Schalke are just going to rotate their bottom lane up to the top so they can start putting pressure on the other side.
I think it's important to note as well, you know, we talk about this macro play, strategic play, you know, take bot tower with a dive, take top tower, take mid tower, one by one, and we talk about teams who can execute it perfectly. It's not as easy as it looks a lot of the time, and we can see, you know, Kinguin had set up relatively well to do it, not quite as well as they should have done. But because Schalke were expecting it, they were able to catch them out. And part of that is just understanding perhaps the meta slightly better, and part of that is perhaps understanding and reading your opponent slightly better as well.
The thing is, if you want to set up a dive like that, you either want to prioritize the tower or you want to prioritize the kills. And I don't think that either of those things were in a position that you could dive in safely, because Smitty J had his teleport, You didn't know where Lulex was on the map. You didn't have full vision control of the bottom side of the jungle. And it was just, the logic itself was good. Oh, we have package. We can push in mid against the cap very quickly. We have our bottom lane pushing. There's a wave underneath the turret. The logic, and we have the Shen ult too.
Yeah.
Like, the logic was there. It just wasn't quite the right time to pull the trigger.
Tough first game for Kinguin against such an experienced lineup here in the form of Schalke. Lulex is going to go for this Cloud Drake. Been left a little bit longer than the Infernal was last game. No surprises there. The power of the wind not quite as strong as the power of fire in most games.
It also did help that Schalke had something like a 5,000 gold lead.
Probably gives him a little bit of help. Of course, Kaz is one of the stronger junglers for doing those objectives quickly by himself with the isolation damage from the taste their fear as well. And now we can just see Schalke starting to do almost what they did last game as well. Set up this split push, allow Smitty J just to continue to push in, and then on the other side of the map, just stop anything Kinguin can do in terms of trying to take some of that gold out of the turrets.
So, what we can do, though, is look at the bright side for Kinguin.
Yeah.
Remember what we did say during Champion Select. They actually have a decent scaling composition. The Corki as well as the Varus are going to scale relatively well as Sevex now.
Oh, Tabasco hit the cannon minion and the flash away by Selfie. Hextech Gunblade looking for the fight because here comes Lulex. Straight onto Tabasco, snipes him away. Sevex, the new target, tried to Valkyrie. Lulex low on mana, won't be able to jump in too far. And they'll just settle for the one kill.
Another turnaround for Schalke. This time, Lulex coming out from the bushes is able to punish Tabasco, who honestly, getting the flash out from Katarina is a big advantage because it forces the cat to play a little bit more passively. And that results in, unfortunately, for Team Kinguin, another kill going over to Schalke. Now they have so much vision control of the top side of the jungle, they can look to prioritize trying to set up a dive on this tower. And this is the way in which you set up the dive. This is the way in which you want to try and force these objectives, where you have a numbers advantage, you gain full control over the enemy jungle. The tower has started to be chunked out, and you can see that Team Kinguin's bottom lane are forced to play back. They're forced to play on the reserve because they're afraid of the possibilities of what can come from Schalke.
It still feels a little bit telegraphed, though. In all honesty, it felt a little bit obvious that Lulex was going up towards that top side.
But notice that they haven't gone for the dive still. That's the key difference. They're fully aware that if we dive now, we're going to die, which is why they're not doing it. They've gained vision control over the top side, which is then setting up for future possibilities, right? Because you now have 3-minute wards that just give you more room. You have full vision of where Tabasco is. Because if he's not right now in the top half of his jungle, and you know that the blue buff is up, then there's a strong possibility that he's going to be in either, somewhere in the lanes. So this can just be Schalke now saying, we can play a little bit passive. So it's all about the setup. You don't have to force these plays in the moment.
Speaking of setup, it looked like Sevex was coming in here with the package. And actually, smart play by Schalke just to back away. Like, they're saying, we don't want this fight. We know you've got Stand United. We only have teleport. It takes us a little bit longer to react. Selfie was on bottom side of the map as well, so no ability for that Katarina to get up. Kinguin might be looking to secure their first turret of the game and of the series, but Schalke on the rest of the map are continuing to push up these lanes and look for that mid lane tower.
But this backtracks to the thing that we were talking about in Game 1, where you said, if you know a dive is going to happen, if you know you have to give away these objectives, and how do you deal with it? And it is this sort of a movement. You force the trade. You make the cross-map play where you say, okay, if you're going to invest 3-4 members top to take that turret, we're going to get 2 or 3 members to take an objective somewhere else on the map. And Schalke, they get themselves that mid-tier win.
Oh, Lulex onto Sevex. Sevex will get the wild growth, and actually, Schalke might be in a bad position. Lulex still hasn't got the kill. Finally gets it, and Selfie looking for the reset. Steelor dead. Tabasco jumped on as well. Another kill for Selfie. He's popping off in this fight, turning on towards Tabasco, who just about escaped. Even through the Stand United and teleport by Ice Beasto, Kinguin weren't able to turn that fight around.
This is the strength of Katarina in these locked up positions.
You're so biased.
Not
to
enough
Katarina.
damage from Kinguin to be able to shut her down. And she just had so much freedom. She got so many resets. She did so much damage with her ultimate. There was no one there to interrupt it. The exhaust was used very early on. And honestly, it was very clean, as now Selfie is the priority.
Vander tanking the turret, though, and Selfie just wants to go in. Shumpo's out. Actually, might die. He's no with a heal, but Tabasco with the chase. Call of the Q. His mind was telling him no, but his heart said yes as he goes all the way in to take down Selfie.
I mean, when you're already behind, you may as well shut the Katarina down. Take those marks off of her Dark Seal, and you force them back away from taking that tier 2 in the mid. But look at this collapse. Lulex, Sebex knows where Lulex is. Sebex is already forced to escape with the Valkyrie, and in a 4 versus 2, this is good initially, but Lulex actually buys so much time for Selfie to just weather out the exhaust that by the time it's off cooldown, he can then just dive in and get all the damage down that he wants. So honestly, it was just Sebex being out of position, and it may very well happen once again.
Yeah, Lulex just going deep for these kills, can just easily run up towards Sebex, even through D-Lord's shield, almost takes him out. But yeah, again, credit to Selfie in that last fight, waited for the exhaust to be down before he jumped back in with that Shumpo and the Death Lotus. Perhaps a slightly early exhaust from D-Lord as well, because he didn't actually, the Katarina hadn't engaged at that point, he was just waiting on the wings. And Kinguin have shown up a lot better this game, only 4,000 gold behind 18 minutes in, but still Schalke look to be unstoppable.
As of right now, they certainly do. Not quite the same sort of gold lead that they had in game 1, but still very decisive in not only their decision-making, but the way in which
Decisive decisions.
Decisive decisions. They make them in the moment.
And they've been decided on.
It's basically right. When I say a decisive decision, it's like, do I do noodles or pasta? And then I go, noodles! It's a decisive decision. Decisive.
I'm more of a rice man myself. So. As you say, when they have a shot call, it is followed by the entire team, and they are making those decisive decisions they need to be making. Ready. Selfie going in onto Sebex. The exhaust has come down. Selfie actually pushed back by this Corki, has burnt the summoner spell, and Tabasco trying to find a way in from the wings. He's not playing Sivir, but he is definitely on the hunt, as you say. Tabasco in onto Selfie. Can he land a Sonic Wave? Sebex caught out by Lulex. That will be an easy enough kill onto the Corki, but the Sonic Wave follows him across the wall. Upset Lulex, and Vander has something to say about this. He safeguards away. Upset flashes in straight into Woolite. Upset, what are you doing? Perhaps the start of a comeback here for Kinguin as Tabasco escapes and they take down 2 members of Schalke.
Tabasco is the hero that Kinguin need, and he is doing just that. Targeting out Selfie, getting himself another kill, as we see a bit of trading from Ice Beasto in the top lane.
Here comes D-Lord, the Lulu power coming in from that bottom side of the jungle, getting onto Smitty J. I think Smitty will be able to escape this. Good arcane smash, but Ice Beasto with the taunt. Smitty won't get away from Lulu. She's just too darn strong.
Now Kinguin getting themselves a couple kills on the board. You have to respect the fact that they do have a pretty potent team fighting composition come the later stages. Yet to complete their second major item, as I say that, Woolite just finished his Hurricane. Sebex working towards that Trinity Force. And when he's got that, he's going to be a little bit more potent in these team fights. He's going to have a little bit more freedom to duel up against this Katarina.
We've seen a few different Varus builds coming out recently. You know, we've seen the Lethality build with the Dusk Blade, with Yumu's. Here we've got Blade of the Ruin King into Runans. What causes the change of mindset for some of these AD carries?
Honestly, it's largely due to deciding on what you actually want to do. So we'll get to that a little bit in a second as we go through this replay. Selfie, the problem here for Selfie is that he actually took a tower shot into the exhaust. This forces him to back away now. Schalke know that Tabasco is coming through. They try to cut him off, but he then actually just completely avoids them. Selfie sees him at the last minute, and he unfortunately steps out of the bush. If he'd stayed out of it, Tabasco, it would have been a little bit harder for him to get the kill, but he goes for the kick, lands the Sonic Wave, and he's actually able to get out through that way simply because of the flash coming out from Selfie. Now, Tabasco here is able to wall jump over the wall. Upset thinks he can get the kill, but no.
It's like, oh, we haven't seen any of the rest of the team on the map for about 5 minutes.
I can get it, boys. I can get it.
I'll flash for the kill. I'll flash for the kill. On the hunt, popped there by Upset as Smitty J teleports in behind. Ice Beasto's already used the taunt. Smitty J onto Woolite, takes him low. Wild Growth will come down and Schalke want this fight. Here's Selfie, Woolite dead. D-Lord chased off towards the top side as well as Lulex goes for the kill. Won't get it as he accidentally takes a cannon down. Will get the Vorpal spikes off in the end though. And Ice Beasto caught by 4 members of Schalke. They will just let him get away and turn their eyes over to the Baron.
Upset's flash is down, so he can't go for the chase, but nevertheless, what he can do is they can move towards the Baron. They're aware.
Looks like they're going to go mid instead.
Yeah, Tabasco is still alive, so they don't want to go for the gamble. Instead, they're going to take the safe option of picking up the tier 2 in the mid lane. Schalke, though, really good flank setup from Smitty J. They dropped that ward earlier on into the mid lane, made it so easy for Smitty to get down the collapse. And when you're able to get that much CC down onto the AD carry, it's pretty much just a matter of time before he ends up dropping. So, honestly, good force from Schalke, punishing Kinguin, who are trying to get that tier 1 in the mid lane. And Kinguin looking better this game, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. I think the vision control is something they've been a little bit lacking on. They've only got a single Oracle's alteration because the Lee Sin's stuck with that warding totem. So I feel that perhaps that ward wouldn't have been there if you had double Oracles, just so because you usually run through mid lane and make sure there's nothing behind you when you go for those pushes. Lulex caught out slightly here by Ice Beast, though will use that Void Assault to get himself away. Just protection. And you have to say, Kinguin have a great poke. They've got great siege later on in the game with the Shen. Lee Sin can jump in. You've got Lulu to keep you safe. You've got the arrows coming out from Woolite and the missiles coming out from Sebex. Later on in this game, Kinguin have a good chance of winning out fights.
They certainly do, but if they get engaged on like this, then it's going to be very difficult for them. You can see how free it is. So Smitty to just dive onto the AD carry. Woolite unfortunately misplays his flash, but I don't think it would have mattered that much because Selfie was coming down from the river. D-Lord ends up just getting caught out on the back end. Not very much he can do about it as the rest of Team Kinguin are forced to separate themselves. But honestly, Team Kinguin so far, they seem to have the right idea in mind. They seem to understand what they need to do. It's just a matter of execution. It's that lack of experience. Often you learn through failure, you get punished for it, and then you can learn from it. And so far, I feel that Schalke are doing a great job of punishing the ever so slight mistakes that Kinguin are setting themselves up for.
Schalke have had a longer time knowing that they were in the Challenger Series as well, so they've had that longer time to prepare. Kinguin only got through the CSQ about 4 or 5 weeks ago. Schalke have known since the end of last LCS that they were going to be here, and they were able to set up and boot camp and prepare themselves both mentally and physically for these games, whereas Kinguin have not had that much time. But
they're hench now. Massive.
Yeah, mate, they're
jogging. I saw Selfie going on the running machines. Like, they could put them in physical
You've never
state.
been near a running machine in your life. Yes.
Doesn't mean that Selfie hasn't, though.
That's true, no, but you wouldn't have seen him. Anyway, Smitty trading with Ice Beast, though. The split push Shen not really doing too much into the Maokai, and Lulex is here for the fight. Edge of Night popped. Ice Beast, though, not in a pretty position at all. He's going to get taken out here by Schalke. Nothing he can do. And with 45 seconds before that game-changing ultimate is back up, Schalke will look to take advantage.
Honestly, just an overstep from Ice Beast, though. The problem for Kinguin is that they can't make any kind of cross-map play. They can't put any pressure on the Baron. They can't even get any vision because the rest of Kinguin weren't in a position. So the problem with overextending that much is
go for it, Selfie! Sorry, a little bit over-enthusiastic. Exhaust comes down as Selfie gets chased away. He went for it, and Sebex pushed it right back in his face, forces him out with the exhaust.
So Selfie.
I just wanted him to go for it. It was just one of those plays that could have been amazing.
It's definitely one of those situations that you go for. You bait the exhaust out. He's got 2 levels up on him. There's no reason not to force it, but a bit of a gamble, given that he wasn't entirely sure where Tabasco was possibly on the map, right? If he doesn't have that vision, the collapse was a very high risk, but nevertheless, he does get away. He does lose his flash for it, though, which will make his team fighting a little bit weaker, make it harder to dive onto those priority targets.
Harder to get the resets as well. The Zhonya's is up for him now, though, so he does have the ability to delay and get that second round of cooldowns back up in a fight. Schalke are setting up vision around this Baron, which is what you expect them to do. They kind of need it to be able to push into a Corki and a Varus, so they're going to start it up now. No vision here for Kinguin, but knowing that there's no one on the map, perhaps they will get a spidey sense about it.
There certainly is an inclination. Tabasco's going to be in the area.
And the Sonic Wave.
Can he get the steal? This is it.
Stand United's coming in. They're going all in for this. He doesn't get the steal, but Ice Beast still gets the taunt onto Lulex. Now caught in the midst of 4 members of Schalke. 5 as Smitty J TP's in. An easy enough Baron for Lulex to smite down, and Schalke will take the kill as well.
Really unfortunate for Ice Beast, though. He ults into Tabasco saying, let's get the steal. Tabasco goes in, misses the smite, and then says nope, and just flashes out. Leaves his teammate to die at the hands of the rest of Schalke as they've now caught onto Woolite.
Speaking of flash, Smitty J flashed onto Woolite there. Lulex going for the chase onto him as well. Caught underneath the turret, though, with the chains. Will just about survive. Smitty is the next to dive as Sebex puts down the red carpet in front of that inhibitor tower. Smitty J will fall because of the overextension of Lulex. Tabasco was on the back line, distracting the rest of Schalke, and Kinguin may have held on to this one for the time being.
Honestly, Schalke getting a little bit too big for their boots right there. They tried to force a play down mid, diving very aggressively into a Lulu, and they end up getting punished for it. Smitty J going underneath that turret without any support. A very good use of the package from Sebex to cut off Smitty J from the rest of his team, and now they've actually been able to hold off. Yes, they lost that tier 2 in the top lane, but they still haven't lost the rest of their base.
have lost their second Ocean Drake as well, though, so that out-of-combat regeneration is going to be pretty impactful for Schalke. Not the best Drakes in the world, you know, if you're going to pick any three, you probably go three Infernals.
Dragon. I'll just add it to my notebook of dragons slain.
How many dragons have you slain, VODS?
A fair.
Are you a Welshman? So you probably should have.
We do not slain them. We befriend them.
Oh, you befriend. It's on the
flag.
So this actually make you quite angry to see so many dragons killed.
It does hurt. Yeah. You know, especially the Infernal Drake, very close to home.
And St. George, who's the patron saint of England, actually killed a dragon as well.
Just rub it in, is that what you're doing? I just
put that salt in the wound. At the moment, Schalke looking for perhaps a teaspoon of salt for themselves to push into the wounds that they have inflicted on this Kinguin lineup. Just seasoning it, marinating this victory in their perfect game.
Well, the game's not secured yet. Yeah. There's always the risk of the throw. We've seen it many times in Challengers. On the hunt gets popped.
And it does, looking for the engage. Chain of Corruption onto Upset. Warlight there, but here's Smithy J from the back. Lulex jumps in, gets D-Lord, looking for the resets. Can't quite take out Tabasco. Almost gets Sebek. Smithy J did kill Warlight into
Upset again.
Once again, flashing for the kill. He's nothing if not persistent, is this Sivir. Eventually gives up on the Shen, but they do get 2 kills underneath the turret and the bottom lane outer tower as well, and will start pounding down on these inhibitor towers as well.
Credit where credit due. If he has flash, he will use it to chase the target down. They should be able to get themselves in the bottom lane. But here we go. Ice Beast still coming in for the flank.
Well, we've seen this work for Schalke. Will it work for Kinguin? Looking for the engage. Ice Beast needs a good taunt. Man should inspire. Ice Beast, where's the rest of the team? No one's joining him. He's already dead. No one helps him out, and Ice Beast has to taunt away. Selfie looking for the resets onto Tabasco. Jumps in again through the GA. And Smitty J will be able to lock him down as soon as he comes back up. Another kill for Smitty J. And they keep on chasing. Selfie goes in. Zonya's, if he makes it out of there alive, that's incredible stuff by Selfie. Shumpo's out. Almost dies to turret as well, but does just about survive. Schalke now looking for their second inhibitor. They've taken bot. They're going to take mid, and Kinguin very much on the back foot.
Oh yeah, at this point, Kinguin, you've lost your entire base, only with the top inhibitor remaining. And it all comes back from this play from Schalke. They know they're far enough ahead to go for the dive. Upset in a bit of a precarious position initially, but it doesn't matter when your Kha'Zix can just dive onto the backline and have this much freedom. Instantly followed up by Selfie. When you have these 2 powerful assassins dive onto the backline, it's very difficult to know which one to focus. And honestly, the damage was just too much for Team Kinguin to be able to deal with. So really good dive from Schalke, and always impressed to see Upset go for that flash once again.
One of these days he'll get a kill out of it. It's going to happen in like the 5th week of Challenger. We're just going to be cheering every week. Be like, oh, he's gone for it, no kills yet. No kills yet, but Schalke definitely able to close it, well, looking to close this game out now. I just want to bring attention to Lulex's build as well. Duskblade, Edge of Night, Yumu, Skirmisher Saber with the Warrior enchant. Yep. And no level up on those boots yet either. Still just sitting on the boots of speed. Don't need to run fast when you can just kill people.
Yep, that is definitely a full damage build. And now, with only 1 inhibitor remaining, Team Kinguin are just going to do what they can to defend. Unfortunately, the early snowball that Schalke had accrued for themselves was a little bit too strong. Katarina got a few too many kills under her belt. And honestly, props to Lulex as well. His Kha'Zix performance has been outstanding throughout this series.
He's played incredibly well, and played like someone who's been at Worlds. Someone with that experience, understanding how to read his opponent. We've seen him out-rotate Tabasco a lot of the time, understand where Tabasco will be. And he's really been able to help snowball Schalke. I mean, he got caught out in the start of this game, and that snowballed Selfie in the mid lane. So even when he dies, he still helps out his allies.
Certainly does. But honestly, a large part of this, I feel, is that Kinguin have made a lot of mistakes that Schalke have very readily punished. And this has been one of the things of Challenger, where you have a lot of inexperienced teams learn a lot about the game. But that's why this series of challenges is going to be exciting, because we have a lot of experienced rosters. And honestly, I feel like this is Schalke just flexing their muscles, demonstrating how strong they really are and the level of competition they're expecting from the other challenger teams.
Oh, definitely. I think as well, you have to look at Kinguin and say, with a couple of alterations, this composition and the way they played this game could win against some high-level teams. There's a few things they need to work on, partly their team fighting, partly some of their ability to take towers early game and understanding their vision control, but still, they have had moments of brilliance in this game, and Sebex especially went very far behind to Selfie and hasn't actually cost them too much. Smitty's looking for the engage on the hunt in. Tabasco just caught out, no escape for him. Icebeasto the new target for Schalke as they continue this dive straight onto the back lines of Kinguin. There's one, there's two, everyone's just getting swept away by Selfie. Jump onto the fountain for Lulex as well as he tried to clean it up. Not quite the ace they wanted. It's left up to Sebex to try and defend the base. And against 4 members of Schalke, he's going to have a tough time. First Nexus tower is the priority. Second will go down in just a second as well. This looks to be Schalke closing out the game and closing out their first series here in EU Challenger Series. They're going to go 2-0 over Team Kinguin.
Very clean game from Schalke. For the most part, a couple of oversteps, a couple of flashy stuff from Tabasco. Upset maybe needs to calm down on the flashes from time to time. But overall,
always flash.
Very enjoyable performance from both teams. And I think the big thing is that we need to watch how Kinguin can grow from this point out now. Clearly, Schalke are looking like a top contender from what we've seen so far. Obviously very limited, but the way in which they move around the map, their drafts, their individual play seem very dominant. And I mean, looking at Selfie play in particular reminds me back of when he played for Misfits back in the Summer Challenger, just dominating over his opponent and honestly just having another day at the office.
Well, it was a very strong day at the office for him with that early double kill and the early double buffs as well. I want to bring attention, though, to Schalke. You know, they say they look pretty strong. We haven't seen a lot of good teams play yet in this split. You know, we've still got PSG, we've still got Fnatic Academy, we've got Millennium, we've got Misfits Academy. Do you think they'll be one of those teams that's top 2 at the end of the split?
I think that from what we've seen, there's a lot of promise for them to finish at the top 2. But it's the next match that I'm really excited to see where they'll fall into place, because I think that PSG is a very similar organization who has invested a lot of resources into this team, have put a lot of investment, and they've also been preparing a long time for this Challenger Series, but Fnatic Academy are no pushovers either. So I think that the next series is definitely going to be the one to watch, and I think it'll be a good example of the sort of caliber we have in this EUCS spring.
Well, every series is one to watch, but make sure you catch our next one. We've got our first winner of the European Challenger Series in the books. After the break, we're going to have Paris Saint-Germain take on Fnatic Academy. Make sure you stay tuned. Tabasco's going low, and here comes Sebex. Lulex has to flash away. Exhaust onto Lulex. There's a kill. Sebex has no summoners and has no escape from Selfie, but he's trying to trade back in. Selfie gets the kill. Resets onto Tabasco. It's a double and a double buff for Selfie. That's exactly what he's doing onto Sebex. Death Lotus with the ignite. And Shumpo in. Selfie on a killing spree. Oh, Lulex onto Sebex. Sebex will get the wild growth, and actually, Schalke might be in a bad position. Lulex still hasn't got the kill. Finally gets it, and Selfie looking for the reset. Steelor dead. Tabasco jumped on as well. Another kill for Selfie. He's popping off. Panda tanking the turret though, and Selfie just wants to go in. Shumpo's out. Actually, might die. No, the heal, but Tabasco with the chase. Call of the queue. Mantra Inspire. Icebeasto, where's the rest of the team? No one's joining him. He's already dead. No one helps him out, and Icebeasto has to taunt away. Selfie looking for the resets onto Tabasco. Jumps in again through the GA. Oh, this looks to be Schalke closing out the game and closing out their first series here in EU Challenger Series. They're going to go 2-0 over Team Kinguin. Tabasco's going